Hey everybody, and welcome to another Minecraft video. As you can see, this episode is going to deal with command blocks. And it looks like there's a lot of command blocks, but actually there aren't. Because this is a very modular design. Each of these 3-block structures here, with the command block into a comparator into another block, is a separate module, and it's fully customizable. So what am I talking about? Modules, customizability, what is this? I'm talking about custom crafting. So there are many things in Minecraft that you would like to be able to craft that you can't, or things that you actually can't even obtain without cheats, but you'd like to craft them. Or sometimes there are things that you can craft, but you just wish there was a different crafting recipe. So custom crafting is the solution. Now, unfortunately, there is no way to actually make this work on a crafting table without mods, because the crafting table UI is actually not stored in the crafting table. It's basically a menu, the same as your escape menu. And that's why if you're crafting something and you close the UI, it will spit all your items back out at you instead of storing them in the table, because the table doesn't actually have an inventory, which is annoying. But it's okay, because with our custom crafting, we're going to be using droppers. So, let me show you how this works. First of all, you'll note that this will not work on any dropper. So, well, if I have this dropper, it just says dropper. And let me see, what was one of my recipes? So one recipe was obsidian, and then stone. And if I put a diamond block in the middle, it's supposed to give me, I think I actually put 2 there during testing. It's supposed to give me bedrock. As you can see, it doesn't, because this is just a normal dropper. The system can tell the difference between a normal dropper and an auto crafter, which is like this one, called a crafter. So if we go here, and we put obsidian in the sides, and stone in the corners, 2 there I think, and a block of diamond, oh look, we get 2 bedrock out of it. There we go. And because these are droppers, of course, items will stay in there. So you can go and start crafting, leave, come back, and it's still there. Same is true of your recipe products. So that's a nice feature, kind of like the Tinker's Tool Table or whatever it is in Tinker's Tools mod, except without mods. Now, keep in mind, this will not craft normal things unless you explicitly add those recipes in. So like normally you could do that on a crafting table and get a block of wool. Not going to happen here unless you explicitly add that recipe in. Each of these little modules is its own recipe. So how does this work? Well, let me show you actually a little bit about it. So first of all, I'm going to give myself using a custom recipe. Oops, I need a nether star. Luckily, I can leave this, grab myself a nether star. Oops, nether star. And I get a book, a guide to custom crafting. Now if I right click, congratulations on making a custom crafter. As you can see, blah blah blah. Okay, so you do need to stand on top of the dropper for it to craft. It just makes it easy to figure out where that block is. But you can put the recipe in and then not stand on it and it'll work. So if I use that same recipe with obsidian and stone and a diamond block, I'm not standing on it, so there is, nothing gets crafted. But all I have to do is walk on top of it, and now it's crafted. So you do have to be standing on it, but you can stand on it at any time to trigger the crafting. So it's not so terrible. It also doesn't have to be facing upwards. I just like the way that looks. It can be facing any direction. Totally irrelevant. So if we read my book, it says you need to stand on top of it to craft custom items. And there are some crafting recipes in here. Now, I have more crafting recipes set up in these command blocks than I mention in this book because I got lazy. So I'm just going to skip through these, and then I will show you each of the recipes that I made. And then I'm going to show you an easy way that I set up a website for you to create your own custom recipes and automatically generate the commands for them. So that's nifty. Okay, so here's the important part. There are some restrictions. Obviously, since this is not a mod, it is command blocks. There are some restrictions based upon the command block language and what it can and can't do. First of all, you must be standing on the crafter to craft with it, as I showed you. You can put the recipes in at any time from anywhere, as long as you can reach it. But it won't craft unless you're standing on it. So that's fine. Enchantments on crafting ingredients are lost. If you do put enchantments on crafting ingredients, for example on a pickaxe, and you put it in there, your recipe can test for it, but unless you explicitly give back the enchantments on the product, they will be lost. So there's that problem. But the biggest problem, because most of the time you don't put enchanted items in, although you can if you want to, the biggest problem is that empty recipe slots are ignored. So if you put anything in them, you will lose them. So for example, I have a recipe using wool. If I put 3 wool blocks here, it gets turned into 4 blocks of 8 total string. I just figured if you're going to be able to craft string into wool, why not decraft? So that's my recipe. And as you saw, it automatically crafted when I put the wool here, right? What happens if I have a block of, say, diamond, nice and valuable, or a stack of diamonds? A stack of diamond blocks there, and I craft my wool up. You can see the diamond block is gone. So where did it go? Well, it's nowhere. It's gone. It's lost for good. So if your recipes don't take up all 9 slots, then your players will have to be careful not to put anything in the recipe slots that are supposed to be empty, or they will lose them. Unfortunately, I didn't want that to happen, but Mojang, the way they set up their command blocks, you can't test for empty slots in inventories, unfortunately. So they set up loose matching, or loose searching, which is so that you can, for example, test whether there is a block of wool in the 3rd slot without testing how many there are, and that would work. The problem is you can't test whether things are empty, which also means that if your recipes overlap each other, like if they're the same recipe except one has an empty space and the other has something else in there, but everything else is the same, they will interfere with each other and they're not going to work right. So make sure your recipes don't overlap. I'm sorry, there was nothing I could do about that. And the last thing, yeah, you can only craft 1 item at a time. Trying to craft multiples of a recipe at once will not produce a crafted item. And then blame Mojang about not allowing us to check for empty slots. But it's important that you can only craft 1 at a time. So for example, remember that wool recipe I showed you? 3 wool creates a string little mini block here. But if I have like 2, if I want to try to do double that, it doesn't work. It does not pick it up. And that's just because when you check for it, there's no way, unfortunately, to use variables in command blocks. There is a way with scoreboards, but there's no way to access, for example, if I check to see if there's wool here, there's no way to access how many there are. I can check to see if there are exactly 3 or exactly 2, but I can't actually find out how many there are. The only way to do that would be to check for every possible number in each slot. And since stacks can go up to 64 and you have 9 slots, 64 to the 9th is a lot of command blocks. Like, ridiculous. So, sorry, one at a time. However, of course, you can just do one, collect them, and then do another. It's a little slower, but it works just fine. Alright, so I was going to go into detail about these, about how these commands work. However, I don't really want to bore you with all of the programming stuff, and since I did make an easier way, I'm going to show you that instead. If you would like to know the details about how these commands work, let me know in the comments or in a message or anywhere, and I'll be glad to make a separate episode describing the codes in detail. But for now, I'm just going to kind of give you a brief overview. So anyone who's done command block work knows that these redstone blocks are actually a clock. You can jump on top of it, but it's just a clock. It's flashing on and off 20 times per second, which is the fastest clock you can have because the game runs at 20 frames per second. But this clock is controlled by these two. So this fills up the middle section with air, and then this refills it with redstone. And so when it goes from air to redstone, it triggers all of the command blocks on it. So all you need to do for the clock is keep these coordinates in mind. So in this case, this way is -z. If we look at my little tooltip here, towards -z up in the corner. So obviously if that's -z, that's +z. So it goes from z plus 3, because you have 1, 2, and 3 blocks, to z minus 13, because there are 13 blocks over here. Now generally the way it works is the first command block, or the first recipe that you have, will be 1 in that coordinate, which depending on how you have your clock set up and your command block set up, it might not be the z coordinate, it might be the positive x coordinate, or negative x, or positive z. You know, it all depends on where you put it, so you're going to have to adjust those coordinates. But basically every recipe module, the first one takes up 1 coordinate position, and then everyone after that, you add 2 more. So this is -1, and then you have -3, and then -5, and then -7, etc., down to -13 down there. And you can add as many as you want. Don't worry about that staircase. That is the mob farm that you saw in the previous video. Don't worry about it yet. But yeah, so -1 for the first, or +1, and then 2 for everyone after that. Okay, so as you see, each module is a command block with a comparator coming out of it and leading into another command block. So one thing you'll notice is that there are spaces between them. I really wish I could have compacted it more, but I tried to put them next to each other and got a lot of crosstalk, so one recipe would actually trigger both command blocks that are next to each other, and so you'd end up with the wrong product. You'd end up with the product for the recipe next to it, which is not right. So I had to separate them to stop that kind of interference. But still, just adding a 2x3 area, or I guess if you count the clock, a 3x3 area for each module for custom recipes, I don't think is so bad. So what are in these command blocks? All the ones under the clock are test for blocks with executes and blah blah blah. Basically, all of these under the clock, they actually check to see what recipe is in the crafter that you're standing on. And then if the recipe matches whatever your recipe is, then it'll output a signal and trigger this command block. Now the command blocks over here attached to only comparators, these actually replace the recipe in the dropper, or the crafter, with your product. So, for example, here we have, oops, let me not show that. I want to show, where is that bedrock recipe? I think it's this one. Yeah. So if you look over here, this checks for a dropper, or named crafter, so a crafter, with a diamond block, and then bedrock. Oh yeah, this was something different, but either way. So this checks for the recipe, and then this puts the barrier block, which that's what this recipe is for, is a barrier block. So this will replace it with a barrier block, and that's how you craft a barrier block. So at the end of this video, I'm going to go through all of my recipes, but first I want to show you how you can make your own recipes. So that's why you'll notice, again, I am not in full screen, because I do want to show you the others. So, I'm going to put a link to this page, not that one. I'm going to put a link to this page down in the doobly-doo, and you can check it out. But this is the page I made to create your own recipes. So basically you have, this is your input recipe, and then this is whatever it will output. Now keep in mind that because these crafters are actually droppers with a 3x3 inventory, you can output more than a single type of item. Like normally on a crafting table, there's only one slot for output, so you can only output one stack. But with this, there are 9 slots, so you can actually output more than just one type. So for example, if I wanted to, I don't know, turn polished andesite into 3 blocks, into a block of grass and granite. I don't know why I would, but if I wanted to, this would be how it's done. So this is the input, and this is the output. And then if you click here, it resets everything to new. So how do we make recipes? First of all, we can search for any block in the game. And for this, I want to thank, I want to thank Graham Edgecombe for his Minecraft IDs page. The link is in the doobly-doo. Now, I feel kind of stupid, because if you look down here, it says API, and if you go, he has an API for this. I did not see the API when I was designing the web page, so I scraped his page to get all of the IDs and images and data values. I scraped his page for it, which is just ridiculous because he has the API along with all of the images. It would have been so much easier, but I didn't see it, so oh well. Anyway, so Graham Edgecombe here has created this page, and I have used it to come up with this search and recipe generator. So let's say I wanted, I don't know, let's say dirt and mushrooms to create mycelium for whatever reason. So I could search for dirt, and I get regular dirt and coarse dirt. I'm going to use regular dirt, and you click it, and you see up here it shows you your currently selected item. And when you click it, it changes. So if I click stone, I get stone. If I click polished diorite, I get that, blah, blah, blah. So in this case, I said dirt. So let's say I want dirt, a row of dirt, and then mushrooms on the top. So I search for mushrooms, and I see brown mushrooms, red mushrooms, caps, mushroom stew. In this case, I'm going to put brown mushrooms. I don't remember what grows on mycelium, but we'll say it's brown mushrooms. So that is our recipe for mycelium. So the output then is mycelium. And let's say you get 2 blocks of mycelium. So what you'll notice is all I did was I clicked it twice and I got 2, and then I can keep clicking and add. If I right click, I subtract. Oops, I need my dirt again. So yeah, if I left click, it adds. If I right click, it subtracts. If I choose a different item, like in this case coarse dirt, I can just replace it entirely, replace the whole stack with a new one. If I hold Control and left click, I get an entire stack, and I can right-click to subtract, as usual. If I hold Control and right-click, I delete the whole stack. So this makes it fast for you to put all of your items in and create your recipe with any number of items. I was hoping to get it to work with Shift, just like Minecraft. Unfortunately, at least in Firefox, if you hold Shift and right-click, it bypasses all of my code, and instead of just right-clicking, it does that and opens the context menu and doesn't actually run the code. Very annoying, but yeah. So Control-click adds an entire stack, right-click clears them. Now, when I say entire stack, I mean 64. Things that either don't stack or only stack up to 16, they will still stack up to 64 in this, just because I didn't have any way of knowing, of programming in which items stack to what, unless I did it manually, and I was too lazy. So make sure your recipes are reasonable. But yeah, so if I have mycelium here, and I click twice to get 2 blocks of mycelium out of this recipe, then I can just click Make Recipe. And I get these 2 chunks of code. So the recipe check, you can copy out and paste into these check blocks under the clock. And then the recipe execution, you can copy this out and, and put it under these command blocks that are not on the clock. So, for example, let's put my mycelium in. Oops, kind of leading into my mob farm here, but that's okay. So we put 1 command block here, 1 command block here, and a comparator between them. Comparator. And then I just have to extend my clock so that it captures that, so it's 3 more in the positive z direction. So 2 more in the positive z direction. So 3 becomes 5, and up here 3 becomes 5. And now you'll see the clock extended, and now it captures that recipe. Of course, I didn't actually put the recipe in, did I? So if we come back to this, we take the recipe check and copy that code and put it under our clock. So now every step or every frame, it will check for that recipe. And now we copy out the execution code. And now we should be able to, create mycelium out of mushrooms and dirt. So, to see if that works, let's give myself a stack of dirt and brown mushrooms. Come onto our crafter. And let's put our recipe in. Dirt there and mushrooms. Where am I? Mushrooms here. Oh, and look, 2 blocks of mycelium, just like we crafted. So, yeah, so you can use this website. Again, link is in the doobly-doo, for any kind of recipes that you want to make, custom recipes. Yeah, I think this is helpful. And again, if you want me to go into detail about how the code works, let me know, and I will make another video for that. But I figure if you're not interested in the coding and you just want to get something that works, you've got the website to help you out with that. So, yeah. Oh, one last thing. How do you get the crafter in the first place? Because as I said, this is just a normal dropper and it won't work. You need a crafter. So the way you get a crafter is with cheats, you give it to yourself. So give me, so that's my username, give me a dropper, and then you set, you say 1 dropper. This doesn't matter. That's the data value, which for the dropper item doesn't matter. And then you have to add this data tag, display name crafter. If you do that, it'll give you a dropper, but the dropper will be named crafter, and when you place this, it will keep its name and will work as a crafter. So if I put this here, let me actually do it like this so you can see that you don't have to be facing up as long as you're on top of it. And if we put my mycelium recipe in, did I get rid of all, I don't know, mushrooms? And it works as a crafter. So you can give yourself that with a cheat, and if you are, for example, making an adventure map or some kind of map, you can give yourself a stack of them just by changing this one into a 64, for example, and now I have a whole stack of crafters. And then you can put them in chests throughout your level, or you can just put them down in the map. Whatever you want to do with it is fine. And that's how you get the crafter in the first place, and then, yeah. So, that is pretty much it. Again, I would like to give a shout out to Graham Edgecombe and his Minecraft block ID page. Has a link in the doobly-doo, and there is also a link to my recipe crafter in the doobly-doo. And now, for the part of the video that I'm sure many of you are excited about, and most of you probably are not. I want to show you all the recipes that I made while playing around and testing. So if you don't care about it, you can stop the video now. I will not be offended. But here we go. So, what's this one? Oops, it's easier if I do this. So that's the mycelium one that I just made. So obviously we've seen that. This one is a spawn egg for skeletons. So if we stand on my crafter, I don't remember if I kept those. I did not. I kept the eggs. Here, let me clear out my inventory so it's a little more organized. So in survival, you can't get spawn eggs. That's only in creative. But now you can craft them. So basically, you just take a stack of eggs. Well, it doesn't have to be a whole stack, but yeah. You make a box with eggs, and you put a skeleton skull in the middle, and you get a skeleton spawning egg, which you can use. I'm in peaceful mode, so they die immediately, but yeah. You can put these in your droppers, or sorry, your dispensers, to, you know, create your own custom spawners, basically. In survival, of course, once you use it, you lose your eggs, so you'd have to craft more, but yeah. So that is my recipe for skeleton eggs. Unfortunately, I didn't feel like going through all the possible eggs and making a recipe for each of them. So in this case, I can only do skeletons. But if you wanted to, you could go through and, for example, put, I don't know, are there zombie heads? I don't even know. Yeah, you can make zombie heads into a zombie spawner. In fact, head. Huh. Interesting that when you look for head, you don't. Oh, yes, you do. Creeper head, you can turn into a creeper spawner. Wither skeleton skull, you can turn into a, wither thing. Anyway, so that's how that works. So then I also have over here the barrier, which I don't know if I showed you, but ooh, I forgot the recipe for my barrier. Let me see. It's diamonds, bedrock, and glass. Okay. So let's get on top of this crafter so it will craft. And give myself diamond blocks, bedrock, and glass. And I think the way I made this, I just need 2 of everything. So 2 of the bedrock as well. And now, boom, I get 2 barriers. So yeah, so these barrier blocks you usually can't get in survival. If you're holding a barrier, you can see all the barriers as these red crosses. But if you're not holding it, those are just particles and they will fade away. See? And they're invisible, but they still block you in. And if you're in survival mode, these are completely unbreakable. So they are invincible, invisible blocks that you can now craft up in survival if you have custom crafting. oops, game mode 1, so that I can get rid of these. Of course, because in creative mode you can destroy any block. But yeah, so that's my barrier recipe. And you might wonder, well, how, if I'm in survival and I want to craft up a barrier, how do I put the bedrock in there? Because you can't break bedrock or get bedrock in survival either. Well, custom crafting. So I believe, yes, I need stone. So to make bedrock, you need to put stone in the corners. Oops, not that one. I don't even remember. I'm forgetting all of my recipes. That's the spawn egg. I think my bedrock recipe is down at the end here. Yes. So I put stone in the corner. Oh, it's another. Oh, right. Yes, that is right. Wait. Sorry about this. I'll probably edit this out. If I don't, I'm sorry. I got lazy with my editing. Obsidian, that's right. Obsidian, diamond, and stone is the recipe. So, right. So if I wanted bedrock, I come in here. I put stone in the corners. I put that in the middle, a block of diamond, and I give myself some obsidian so that I can put obsidian on the sides. And now, if you look, it turns into bedrock. And you notice I put 2 there. That was just because I was playing with it before and I never changed it back to 1. But yeah, so that's how you can craft up bedrock, and then you can use that bedrock in the other recipe to get yourself some barriers. Okay, so then what's in here? That is the book that I showed you before. You already saw that. What do I get here? Command blocks. I believe it was wood with a nether star. Although I was thinking about changing that recipe, but I never did. So, any kind of wood planks and a nether star in the middle. Yep, and you get a command block, which, of course, is only obtainable in creative mode, with cheats even. Like, even in just normal creative mode, you can't get it. You have to cheat. Now you can craft it. Of course, in survival mode, it's kind of useless, because if you put a command block down and you're in survival, right, you can't do anything with it. It's unbreakable, can't be pushed by pistons, and you can't actually set the command. So in survival, it's useless. However, sometimes it's nice in creative mode to be able to just craft up a command block instead of always having to run this command. Give ice metal punk command block, like that. Instead of having to do that every time, I can just craft up some of them with wood and a nether star. What I was thinking of doing was putting a redstone block in the recipe, or redstone in the recipe somewhere, but I never did. So yeah, so that's our command block. Here, okay, so this is a recipe that you cannot actually make with my recipe maker, because it doesn't allow custom tags, custom data tags. And data tags are used for storing extra information about each item, in this case, enchantments. So, sorry, you can't do that. You're going to have to do it manually if you want. You can make the recipe with the bow and then just add the enchantments manually. Maybe one day I'll find a nice user interface to do that, because the problem isn't with adding the data tags. It's just a matter of I don't know how to make my recipe crafter UI play nice with that, because every way I can think of to add data tags is ugly. So yeah, but in this case it is a bow, and let's see if I remember. It is a special bow, and I believe I just put blaze powder around, let me use this one, around a bow so that I could get an enchanted bow. So if I take blaze powder, if I don't want to use levels for enchanting for whatever reason, I could put a bow in the middle and blaze powder around it, and boom, we get a flame 1 enchanted bow. I was going to say I have no arrows, but this is creative mode, so of course I have arrows. And it's flame 1 enchanted. Alright, put that out. Yeah, so there we go. So we don't have to use our enchanting table, we don't have to use any lapis, we don't have to use any XP, we don't have any XP. All we need are 8 blaze powders and a bow. Okay, so that is this bow. This one, so on the theme of crafting enchanted items instead of enchanting them, if I have some iron boots and some feathers from killing all those chickens, can you imagine what would happen if I put feathers around boots? Surprise, surprise, we get a Featherfall 1 iron boots. So there we go, that's more enchantment crafting. This is the bow, the boots. Okay, so this, again, it uses data tags. So unfortunately, you would have to add the data tags yourself manually. My recipe crafter won't be able to do that yet. But this, how did I make this? Oops, I'm looking at the wrong place. This is the recipe. Okay. It was reeds. I know I had a water bottle in the middle. And nether wart. Okay. So I did try to make this work with custom brewing. It didn't exactly work. So instead it works in the crafter. So you put nether wart along with a water bottle along with reeds, reeds are now called sugar canes. So sugar canes. And we can craft this up. So we put a water bottle, sugar cane on the bottom, nether wart on top, and we get a potion of haste. So this is a 3-minute potion of haste. If I drink it, you'll see that I now have haste for 3 minutes. But here's the thing. There is no potion of haste in Minecraft. You can get haste effects various ways, one of which is with beacons, but there is no way to get a potion of haste. But now you can. So as I said, I tried to get this to work with a brewing stand. It sort of worked, but you had to step off the brewing stand and then step on it again for it to actually brew. I don't know why, but it made it ugly, so I just left it as a crafting recipe. But yeah, so that is potion of haste, and those particles are annoying. So let's clear all of those effects out. I no longer have haste. That's the bow. So that means this is the potion. So what is this? String, I showed you. The wool turns into string. 3 wool blocks down the middle creates a little 2x2 block with 8 string in it. So uncrafting your string. And then this is the bedrock recipe that I showed you. So there we go. You've seen all the recipes. You know how to create your own. I expect big things. And if you do want me to go in and create a video that goes into detail about how these work and the code behind them, I will do that. And if you do that, then I will also mention how to get those data tags so that even though my recipe crafter can't do those yet, you will be able to manually put in your own potion effects, enchantment IDs, things like that. So you can make enchanted products out of your crafting table. Yeah, so that is my recipe crafter and my technique for custom crafting. And if I ever get the brewing working better, I will definitely make an update to this video. I will also make an update to this video if I figure out a way to do data tags in my recipe crafter site so that you don't have to manually do them. And until next time, keep redstoning, keep designing. Wait, I've forgotten my own outro. Keep designing, keep redstoning, and keep crafting.